Hi, and welcome to the Turning 30 podcast, a place where we discuss all things related to turning 30, including love, friendships, career, lifestyle, health, and lots more. And I'm really excited that you're joining us today. I recently, at the end of 2024, made a very bold life choice. And it was such a process of going through it. And I wanted to share a bit about that process with you, and also to talk to those of you who are also wanting to make a bold decision or a brave decision. Some of you probably are feeling very stuck, and this isn't specific to what I'm going to talk about today, which is moving country. It's, if that's not actually what relevant to you, you're not moving country or moving location or changing your environment, but maybe it's something that is bold and brave for you. So that could be quitting your job, starting your own business. Maybe it's ending a relationship. Maybe it's putting yourself out there dating. Maybe it's even just starting a new hobby. Whatever that thing is, I want you to take what I'm talking about today and apply it to yourself. Okay. And I think that it's really important to think about life in chapters. So those of you who've worked with me before or know my content, you will know that I love the concept that our life happens in chapters or seasons. I think those words are interchangeable. And I think that those seasons and those chapters are bookmarked by periods of time, whether that's a year in your life, whether that's a few months, whether it's an age, like your 33rd year. I always say 33 because for me, that my 33rd year was the most significant chapter of my life so far. And without a doubt, I experienced many, many changes, and it was definitely a season of life. Or it could also just be an unmarked period of time, or something in your life is happening and you're within it. And I love the idea that these chapters are coming and going. So the good ones come, the bad ones come, everything is always changing. But you get to choose these chapters, okay? You get to manifest them. And when I say manifest, I'm not really specifically talking about the woo-woo manifestation that a lot of you probably think of when you think of manifestation. But I almost like to think of manifestation as manufacturing, okay? So you're manufacturing your own chapters, you're choosing them. And many times when we're in true victim mode, we can feel that life is just happening to us instead of understanding that we have the ability to change our surroundings and to change our chapters. Okay. So, whilst, yes, I'm sure many of you listening are like, Emma, there are so many things that are outside of my control, and there's things going on in the world that I have absolutely no ability to change because of, it's completely outside of my control. I still believe that within those scenarios, we get to decide how to show up. We get to decide how to think about things. We get to decide the mindset that we approach things with, and we get to decide how we perceive things. And then from that, we get to decide on new behavior or how we're going to react and how we're going to respond. I love this because I think that it gives us this ability to control the seasons, okay, to control the chapters and to really move ahead. But in order to do that, you have to get comfortable or even just do things like making big decisions, big, bold, brave, life-changing decisions. I really want to emphasize that this episode is for you, even if your decision doesn't seem as monumental as moving country, which is what I have just done. It's for those of you who just feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, and no matter what that is. And it's for you if you are eager to do something bold, or you've already maybe even made a brave decision and you're facing challenges from that decision. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the decision that I'm talking about and how I navigated it. And then I'm going to discuss tips or tricks that I've learned for what to do before that decision is coming into reality, and then what will occur immediately afterwards, because it's almost like the damage control, the troubleshooting that will happen afterwards. And I just invite you all to reflect on maybe something that's going on in your life right now, a season or a chapter that is coming to an end or that you want to come to an end, and how you can take what I'm saying and actually make it relevant for you. So my last chapter has definitely been bookmarked by, I guess, getting pregnant and giving birth and then struggling with postpartum and knowing that I wasn't in a place enjoying where I was living. And in December the 1st, which is a very nice date for it to happen, me and my now husband, so I guess I have also got married since the last time I've been on the podcast, not a wedding, just a ceremony. And me and my husband and our baby, or at the time our 8-month-old baby, packed up all of our bags, all of our belongings, and we relocated to Thailand. We're now living in the island of Koh Samui in southern Thailand. And honestly, if I would have told myself, past Emma at the start of 2024, who was quite pregnant and planning to have a baby, that she would be living in Thailand, she would have literally laughed in your face. She would have said, absolutely no way, that wouldn't happen. But here we are. And it was a big decision that really did bookmark the end of a very difficult chapter. And I'm not going to go into too many details today because I feel like I could go off on a huge tangent and talk about giving birth and everything that happened for me during this time. But I have had a really difficult time, and I've struggled with, I can now see what was postpartum depression. I didn't realize at the time, and a very challenging time because of world events. I have lived for the past 10 years. At the age of 27, I moved from London to Tel Aviv, which is where my husband is from. We knew that we wanted to move country, and we knew that we wanted to create a new life for ourselves. And it was actually something that really bonded us and was important for us and for our relationship, was that we were aware that this was going to happen, but we just didn't know when. And because of world events, everything is sped up, and we decided that we were already ready to go and start our new life. And we really found ourselves in this position of making quite a quick decision, but we sat on that decision. And what I mean by that is we were dwelling on that decision for a good few months before we actually, what I say, pulled the trigger. And we were like moving backwards and forwards. We had various options of where we wanted to move to. The first option was going to be the US, which was something that we were talking about for a long time. And then we decided Europe, and then we said no to those options. And then it's actually the first time that I had to make a huge life decision. And I've made a few. I've moved country before. I've been through many big relationship decisions, many big job decisions. Those of you who have listened to past episodes will know I have been through many big career changes over the last 10 years. This decade in my 30s has brought tremendous change. But I've never had to make such a huge decision as firstly starting a family, but secondly relocating with someone else. So for those of you who are making the decision alone, that brings up its own challenges, because you are taking the whole brunt of the decision, and it's something you have to decide yourself, and it's no one else can almost understand where you are and have that person to really discuss it with. But the flip side of that is that the decision only affects you, so you're only taking yourself into account. And those of you who have partners will know that when you're making a decision with a partner, it's not just you have to take into account somebody else's process. And that was a big thing for me and Ellie, because Ellie himself was deciding whether to quit his corporate job. And that was also a benchmark for us for closing the chapter, because we had originally planned to do it by this summer, so summer 2025. And we decided already to move that forward. And that was his process of going through a decision to leave corporate and also set up his own business. So this was also a big thing that was happening. And yeah, all of the different options were on the table, and then Thailand won for various reasons. And we just felt like it was a very, very aligned decision, but it did take us months to get to that place. But once we decided, everything moved forward really, really quickly. So here are some tips that I would give to you. And I want you to, again, think of your own decision, okay? Whether that's quitting, ending a relationship, putting yourself back out there on the dating apps, investing in something. Maybe it's buying a property. Maybe it's like me, moving to a new city, a new country. Maybe it's starting to study again. Maybe it's moving back home because you want to save money, so you're going to live with your parents. All these different brave, bold, big decisions. I think that the following tips that really served me and served our decision to move and relocate are going to help you too, no matter what. And the first thing is, look for the signals. Is the universe pushing you? And I know that you're probably thinking, Emma, what is this? The universe doesn't signal you. This is silly. But I disagree. I think that when you're on the verge of making a big decision, there will be signs, there will be things going on around you that are kind of forcing you to make the decision. And that if you're in a job, it used to happen to me a lot where I would be like, the job isn't feeling aligned. I've been given this role, I've been given tasks that I don't want to do. My manager has, been putting pressure on me. All of a sudden, my Instagram started doing really, really well. And all of a sudden, I started getting loads of people messaging me asking if I was taking on clients. This was back 7 years ago when I was contemplating whether to quit to do my own business. And now I look back and I can see that the universe, the signals around me were forcing me in a way to make that big decision. And it was like the world events that were going on in our life and the way that things were unfolding, and also Ellie in his position and work and everything. It was like almost like someone was screaming at us in the face and saying, you need to leave. This chapter is done. This now, your life right now doesn't fit you anymore. And the next chapter is calling. And it was calling so loud, almost at some point it became deafening. So I would say just sit with yourself for a moment now and ask, is the universe asking you to make this decision? And if so, why? What's going on? Now, I want you to also really try to get to the core of what is holding you back, okay? I want you to really think to yourself, what is the thing that's stopping me from moving forward? Is it fear? Okay. Is it fear that something's going to go wrong? Is it fear that I'll make the wrong decision? Okay. Is it judgment of other people? That's a huge one that stops us making mistakes. Is there something that I'm going to imagine other people saying about me that's going to make me say, no, I'm just not going to do it? Is it the thought that if it doesn't work out, you're going to lose something, whether it's money, friends, a relationship, time, maybe it's career status, maybe it's reputation, all of these things. Now, I want you to get to the core of that, because until you really understand the thing that's making you feel afraid, the thing that's keeping you in inertia, you won't really be able to deal with it and move forward. Okay. The next tip is that when you think of that thing, I want you to really write it down, and I want you to start problem solving. And I want you to do this with a really optimistic mindset, because this is something I really struggled with. I am somebody, yes, I know I'm a life coach by definition, but my brain will always go to the worst case scenarios. It's just how I am. It's who I am. It's actually how I was brought up, to always think what could go wrong. And I want you to write it out, and I want you to really look at all of those things and start to problem solve, and then think what could go right. And I'm lucky that I had Ellie with me making the decision, because he is somebody who will always be like, whatever the problem is that is going to throw up things for us in this move, we are going to solve it. There is nothing that we can't put our minds to. There's nothing that we can't figure out. So as an example, we had to get a digital nomad visa, and there are quite a few hoops to jump through to get the visa. And I was like, one day before we made the decision, freaking out. We're not going to get the visa. What's the point? We have too many things to do. We were getting it in connection to my business, and I was looking at all the requirements, and all of a sudden started to see all these problems. And now I look back and I'm like, I just needed to be in problem solving mindset, like really almost like moving away. This is like the opposite of the woo looking for signals. And this is the, how can we actually just get down to the nitty gritty and figure it out? Because at the end of the day, most things are figure outable. If the main obstacle for you is fear, okay, it's the emotion, it's that nervousness, I want you to really ask yourself, what are you gaining from staying where you are right now? And most of the time, you will understand that the only thing that you are gaining is comfort. The only thing that you are gaining is stability, security, feeling comfortable, and not putting yourself in a vulnerable position. And this is something that I come back to time and time again with clients, because people who are making life decisions will almost always say, I'm just so nervous that the worst case scenario will happen, and then I won't be where I am right now. And then I always say to them, but you're so nervous to be in the worst case scenario that don't you realize you're already living your worst case scenario? You're really nervous to move job because you're worried about being stuck in a dead end job or a bad job. You're already in a bad job, otherwise you wouldn't want to leave it. And that's the same with relationships, and that's the same with moving country. And I really want you to think about how the comfort zone where you're in right now is actually in the long run really uncomfortable. It's really, really not serving you. The next thing I want you to do is to zoom out of your life. I want you to imagine your 80-year-old self looking back. What would she tell you to do? What would she think of this decision right now? Because I can bet that for most of you, you will imagine your 80-year-old self and she will thank you now for doing this thing. And this really helped and guided me when I was thinking about Thailand, because I was like, it just feels huge. It feels also random, Thailand. Like, why would I move there? Like, I have no connection to that. It just feels so out of the blue. And then actually, I was imagining myself at 80 years old, speaking to my grandchildren and saying, you know what, when we were 80, we took your dad, Lenny, that's my son, to Thailand for a few years, and we went on a huge adventure, and we just lived in the jungle, and thinking that will be so cool, right? My grandkids will be like, that is amazing. That's so brave. And is she going to regret that? Is the 80-year-old version of me going to say, oh, why did you do that? I'm guessing not. And that zooming out of your life is such a useful piece of advice, because if I really thought about moving and making such a big, brave decision in the next 2 months, thinking, oh my God, I've got so much to do. We had to, we packed up our whole lives. We left our apartment. We packed up everything into suitcases and we sold everything else. We literally stored a few boxes and that was it. And apart from that, we sold everything. And if I thought of that in the zoom in the micro level for the next 2 months, I started to freak out. But when I zoomed out and thought of my life as a seasons, chapters, decades, thinking as my 30s is this great big thing, I was like, it's not that much of a big deal. It's just something that people do. People make big, brave decisions and then they reflect on it and they say, wow, that was such a cool experience. So I really recommend that you do that. Visualize, okay? This is something that really, really helped me to get clear of if it was the right decision for me. I would sit and close my eyes and I would be imagining myself in Thailand, living that island life. And I always think of it as like going back to my roots, because I just love living in the tropical world. I love being in nature. I love like not having those materialistic things. It's just very me. And I was imagining that version of myself who was out of the current chapter where I'd really been struggling actually with the environment and where we were living. My nervous system was constantly activated. I was just feeling claustrophobic. I was feeling like I missed nature. I didn't feel free at all. And then I was visualizing and imagining the peace and the quiet that would come with living in nature. And I realized that my body just felt peaceful. And I also felt excited, a bit nervous, but also excited. And I realized through those visualizations that it was probably going to be the right decision for me. Now, the next tip I will say is to really ask yourself, when do you feel the most brave? When in your life do you feel, in the past, up until now, the most confident version of yourself? Really try and tap into her and understand how you can take her energy and bring it to making this decision. And then that energy is going to help you to pull the trigger on the big decision. Okay, the one thing that's going to actually put you into action. So for me, I felt most brave when I looked back on my life and realized all the big decisions that I've made. And I was in a really low place in 2024. The postpartum depression that I was experiencing, the feeling like I wasn't going out of my house ever, the struggling with my identity, all of the things, I had lost that confident version of myself and I really had to work to get her back. But once I realized and almost stepped out and looked at the last years of my life and all of the amazing brave things I've done, I was able to understand I can do hard things. And that really helped me to do this trigger action, which was to book the flights. So for us, we decided after dwelling, and we were really dwelling for weeks on when to go, whether to wait, how should we do it? Should we should we fly first to Europe? Should we go straight to Thailand? We didn't know exactly how it was going to look. And the one thing that propelled us forward was just booking the flights. We said, we'll book the flights. We picked a random date. We thought it would be nice to go on the last day of the month. We left on the 30th of November and we landed in Thailand on the 1st of December. And that was it. And we booked them 7 weeks before. And then it was like, we didn't have the visa. We didn't have any proof that we would be able to pull it off. But we knew if we gave ourselves a deadline, then we would be able to do it. So I urge you to just find that thing. Find that one thing, whether it's to press a button to buy a course, whether it's to send the notice to your boss, whether it's to have that important conversation with the person that you decided that you don't want to be in a relationship with anymore, whether it's to incorporate your business or to open a website, whatever it is, just find a thing that you need to do, tap into the version of yourself that feels the most brave, and go ahead and do it. And now I want to just talk to you quickly before we end the episode about a few things that are going to happen when you decide to do the thing. Because a few things are going to happen and it will make you think that you're doing something wrong, but you're absolutely not. It's really, really normal and it's everything that I've just gone through. Okay. So what will happen when you make a big, life-changing, bold decision is that your brain is going to offer you every single anxiety about what might go wrong and what won't work. It's going to literally tell you you're stupid. It's going to say, why the hell did you just do that? It would be so much better if you just stayed as you are. And I think it's really important to say that this is normal. Your brain is primitively developed and has evolved to protect you and to put you in this, safe place. And it will just basically go mad. And I always say this when someone is about to invest in coaching with me. I always say, you do understand that once you step away from this call where you have decided that you want to work with me, your brain is going to tell you all the reasons why you're not capable, why you shouldn't invest the money, why, everything that's going to go wrong. And just know that is normal. A few nights after we booked the flights to Thailand, I was lying awake and I was like, oh my God, I've made such a crazy decision that is going to deeply impact my child and it's going to deeply impact my dog. And that was a huge thing we had to go through. I can't believe I've not even mentioned that. Chica, my 10-year-old dog, was coming with us. Of course, we would never leave her behind. She's part of the family. But importing a dog into Thailand is not easy, especially because she would have to fly under the plane. And we had a whole host of things that we had to organize, documents, bureaucracy to do it. And I remember lying awake in bed one night, and it was a few nights after we booked the flight, and I got into a spiral, an anxiety spiral of, oh my God, I made the wrong decision for Chica. This is all going to go wrong. I was creating these ridiculous scenarios where she would get sick and, then I was like, oh my God, what if something happens with our health and what, all of these things. And it's like all my inner fears were coming out. And I woke up the next morning and I shared them with my partner. And he was like, this is anxiety. This is what happens when we're really, really anxious about something. Our minds just give us all of the things that we can't do. They just give us all of the things that are going to go wrong. And as soon as I realized that it was just an anxious spiral, I felt so much better. So just be onto yourself, okay? Just be aware that if your brain starts to freak you out, it's just your brain freaking you out. It doesn't mean that everything's going to go wrong. And my biggest piece of advice here is to journal, is to really sit and write out all of the things that you are worried about. And once they're on the piece of paper, I assure you, you will really understand that it's okay. It's going to be okay. The next thing that will happen when you're making a brave and bold choice is other people are going to have opinions. And when these other people's opinions are going to come and project themselves onto you, it's going to make you question your own decision. And you definitely will. Maybe these two things are linked. The other people's opinions can trigger, this inner fear, this inner anxiety. And I just want to say here, just be aware that this is your bold and brave life decision, not theirs, no one else's. You get to own it. And your big decision will probably trigger other people. And they will say things like, oh my God, why are you going to live there? That's so random. What are you going to do? your people were saying to us, your business won't be able to run there. What about the time difference? And they were saying to Ellie, you can't quit your amazing corporate job. How ridiculous is that? And it's not safe for Lenny, and it's not safe for Chica, and all of the things. And of course, there were so many amazing supportive people on this journey. If you're listening to this, like, thank you. Loads of our friends were like, wow, this is so exciting. You're so amazing. Like, you're really inspiring. But sometimes other people's opinions will be hard. And I just want you to know that is also really normal. You will also feel guilt, okay? This is something that I really struggle with. I still struggle with it. I would love to dive into this topic more so I can bring it to my community, but it's something I'm still processing at the moment. But you will feel guilt for putting yourself first, for doing something exciting or weird or not conforming or going against the grain. Is going to bring shit up. And for me, it's brought a lot of things up about the way I've decided to live my life. I already live abroad from my family before. Now I live also abroad from my in-laws and much further away from the UK than I was living before. And it feels really hard. And sometimes we know that our life here, the sacrifice that we are, or the compromise that we're dealing with, is living so far away from family. We don't have any family here, and it's really difficult. And I won't brush over it. And that leads to the next point of, just because you make big, bold, brave decisions that feel good and feel aligned, it doesn't mean that it's always going to feel like fluffy and rainbows. It doesn't feel that way. And it probably won't all seamlessly fit into place. I think this is a misconception that so many people have. They really think that if they make the decision that they've been waiting to make, and they're going to step up into this bold and amazing version of themselves, that all of a sudden, like, life will feel good and everything will be happy. And if that's going to live on a beach, you'll just imagine yourself in like a music video style, like roaming around in the sand, and everything's going to feel amazing. And like, no, we're still human. I always think this about my life. Like, yes, I'm in a much better position than I was 2 months ago in terms of I've made this big decision, but I'm still experiencing life as a human, and it's very human life right now, and I'm still experiencing all different emotions. So it's really, really important to understand that it won't be seamless. It probably won't all fit into place, but it will feel rewarding. There is nothing more rewarding than making an aligned decision and seeing it play out, stepping into that new version of yourself, into your next chapter, and reaping the benefits. And the last 2 months have honestly been some of the most, in fact, the whole of 2024, but especially the last 2 months, have been very, very challenging. And it has felt a lot like, is this ever going to end? Am I ever going to be in a position where I could just like breathe and feel like it was all worth it? And I have to tell you, the other day, I just dropped Lenny off at his new nursery, and I was driving back surrounded by the jungle, and I was on my way to a new co-working space that I found, and I went up to the reception, and it's in a hotel. So you've got the office, and then upstairs there's a pool and a beautiful view. It's literally like a viewpoint. You can see the whole of Koh Samui. And I was there, and I just like, it just felt right. I can't explain. I just all of a sudden was overwhelmed with gratitude of myself for making this decision. And in retrospect, it doesn't even feel that brave that I did it. It just feels like it makes sense, and it just feels right. And that's why I know that it's right, because even though things aren't perfect, and even though we're navigating so many difficulties and so many obstacles, and the life here is so different from what we know, I know that deep in my heart that this was the right thing for me. And I hope that hearing this can inspire you to also make some bold decisions. Now, I want to leave you with a quote. I thought about this quote constantly. It's by Brianna West, and it's genuinely my all-time favorite quote. She says, "Your new life is going to cost you your old one. It's going to cost you your comfort zone and your sense of direction. It's going to cost you relationships and friends. It's going to cost you being liked and understood. But it doesn't matter, because the people who are meant for you are going to meet you on the other side. And you're going to build a new comfort zone around the things that actually move you forward. And instead of liked, you're going to be loved. Instead of understood, you're going to be seen. And all you're going to lose is what was built for a person who you no longer are." Wow. It is such a good quote. Now, if you are wanting to work on yourself in your 30s, if you are ready to step into a new version of yourself or just work on the current version of yourself, if you want improved relationships, friendships, career, work life, business life, health, mental health, emotional well-being, if you want to meet new people, then you are in the right place, because I am going to be launching my brand new community called Turning. It's the safest, most non-judgmental space to be as a woman in her 30s who is doing this work. It's going to be the most sacred space. It's going to be an opportunity for you all to meet each other and learn, because it's going to be educational, lots of tools, the courses that I run. And it's a membership that has been something that I've been dreaming up actually since 2022. And now it's 2025. It is time to go full speed ahead with the plans. Because right now I'm looking for 30 founding members, 30 women who are going to be the backbone of the community. They're going to help shape it. They're going to be the ones that are the pioneers, the thought leaders. And it's going to be released to those of you who really, my inner circle, who follow me, who interact with me. And I've already created a wait list. As a podcast listener, you are already in my inner circle, and I really urge you to go and check the link in my bio and check out on Instagram about becoming a founding member. I would love to invite you. You'll get a special locked in price, a much cheaper price than the actual membership. And I just want to say also that a huge goal of mine for 2025 is to make coaching more accessible. So working with me one-on-one in the past has been high ticket. That means that you invest a lot of money, but not everybody has the ability to invest that amount of money in themselves. And the thing about the membership is that it's going to cost around the $50 mark per month. And that's $50 to literally have contact with a coach, have educational tools, have contact with other women in their 30s, so many different things. So I'm really excited, as you can hear, and I'm going to be talking about it more next week on the podcast. I'm going to be doing a Q&A on some questions that you've been submitting to me. So if you have a question, I urge you to either contact me. The email address is in the podcast description notes, or you can message me on DM and Instagram, where I'm interacting with all of you all day long. And just want to thank you all for being here with me, hearing more about my big, bold life choice, and hopefully giving you some inspiration to make yours. I'll see you all on the podcast next week.